Pope Innocent V Latin, Innocentius V, c. 1225–22 June 1276, born Pierre de Tarentaise, was pope from 21 January to 22 June 1276. He was a member of the Order of Preachers and was a close collaborator of Pope Gregory X during his pontificate. He was beatified in 1898 by Pope Leo XIII. Biography. Early life. He was born around 1225 near Moutiers in the Tarentaise region of the county of Savoy. An alternative popular hypothesis, however, suggests that he was born in La Salle in the Aosta Valley in Italy. Both places were then part of the Kingdom of Arles in the Holy Roman Empire, but now the first is in southeastern France and the second in northwestern Italy. Another hypothesis, favoured by some French scholars, is that Peter originated in a Tarentaise in Burgundy, or Tarentaise in the department of the Loire in the arrondissement of Étienne. In early life, around 1240, he joined the Dominican order, at their convent in Lyons. In the summer of 1255, he was transferred to the Studium Général of the convent of S. Jacques in Paris. This move was essential for someone who was likely to study at the University of Paris. He obtained the degree of Master of Theology, and quickly acquired great fame as a preacher. Professor and provincial. Between 1259 and 1264 he held the chair of the French, one of the two chairs professorships that were allocated to the Dominicans. In 1259, Peter took part, perhaps because of his status as a master at Paris, perhaps as an elected definitor delegate for the province of France, in the general chapter of the Dominican order at Valenciennes, under the leadership of the Master General, Humbertus de Romans. Peter participated together with Albert the Great, Thomas Aquinas, Bonosciomo Brito, and Florentius. This general chapter established a ratio studiorum, or program of studies, which was to be implemented for the entire Dominican order, that featured the study of philosophy as a preparative for those not sufficiently trained to study theology. This innovation initiated the tradition of Dominican scholastic philosophy, which was to be put into practice in every Dominican convent, if possible, for example, in 1265 at the order's Studium Provinciale at the convent of Santa Sabina in Rome. Each convent was expected to have an elected lector to supervise the preparative studies and an elected master for theological studies. In the next year he was assigned the title of Preacher General. In 1264 a new Master General of the Order of Preachers was elected, John of Vercelli. It was taken as an opportunity to engage in some academic politics, since Humbertus de Romans, Peter's patron, was dead. 108 of Peter's statements in his commentary on the sentences of Peter Lombard were denounced as heretical. But, though Peter withdrew from his professorship, John of Vercelli appointed Thomas Aquinas to write a defense of the 108 propositions. Peter's reputation was such that he was immediately elected provincial of the French province for a 3-year term 1264–1267. He was granted his release from office at the General Chapter, which was held in Bologna in May, 1267. At the conclusion of his term, and after Thomas of Aquinas' rejoinder to his critics was circulated, Peter returned to his chair at the University of Paris 1267. In 1269 he was re-elected to the office of Provincial of the French province, and he held the post until he was named Archbishop of Lyons. On 6 June 1272, Pope Gregory X himself named Peter of Tarentaise to be Archbishop of Lyons, a post he held until he was appointed to be Bishop of Ostia. It is said, however, that Peter was never consecrated. He did, however, take the oath of fealty in early December, 1272, to King Philip III of France. Pope Gregory himself arrived in Lyons in mid-November, 1273, intent upon bringing as many prelates as possible to his planned ecumenical council. He met immediately with King Philip III of France. Their conversations were obviously harmonious, since Philip ceded to the Church the Comtat Venaissin, which he had inherited from his uncle Alphonse, Count of Toulouse. The Second Council of Lyons opened on 1 May 1274. The first session was held on Monday 7 May. The principal items on the agenda were the Crusade, and the reunion of the Eastern and Western churches. Cardinal Bishop of Ostia. Peter of Tarentaise was elevated to the cardinalate on 3 June 1273, in a consistory held at Orvieto by Pope Gregory X, and named bishop of the Suburbicarian See of Ostia. He participated in the Second Ecumenical Council of Lyons. During the council, he sang the funeral mass and delivered the sermon at the funeral of Cardinal Bonaventure, Bishop of Albano, who had died on 15 July 1274, and was buried on the same day in the Church of the Franciscans in Lyons. Pope Gregory, the Fathers of the Council and the Roman Curia all attended. After the conclusion of the council, Pope Gregory spent the autumn and winter in Lyons. He and his suite departed Lyons in May, 1275, he left Vienne shortly after 30 September 1275, and arrived in Lausanne on 6 October. There he met with the Emperor-elect Rudolph, King of the Romans, and on October 20 received his oath of fealty. There were 7 cardinals with the Pope at the time, and their names are mentioned in the record of the oath-taking: Petrus Ostiensis, Ancharis Pantaleon of S. Praside, Guglielmus de Bray of S. Marco, Ottabono Fieschi of S. Adriano, Giacomo Savelli of S. Maria in Cosmedin, Godefridus de Alatri of S. Giorgio in Velabro, and Matthias Rosso Orsini of S. Maria in Portisu. The party reached Milan on Tuesday 12 November 1275, and Florence on 18 December. The papal party reached Arezzo in time for Christmas, but the Pope was weak and ill. The stay in Arezzo was prolonged until Gregory X died, on 10 January 1276. Only 3 cardinals were at his deathbed: Peter of Tarentaise, Peter Giuliani of Tusculum, and Bertrand de Saint Martin of Sabina, all cardinal bishops. According to the constitution, Ubi Periculum, which had been approved by the Council of Lyons, the conclave to elect his successor should begin 10 days after the Pope's death. Papacy, January—June, 1276. Papal conclave. After the required 10 days had passed, the cardinals assembled on the Vigil of St. Agnes, the 20th of January, to hear the customary Mass of the Holy Spirit. There were 12 cardinals present. 2 cardinals, Simone de Brienne, who was papal legate in France, and Giovanni Gaetano Orsini, did not attend. The next morning, the 21st of January, Cardinal Petrus was the unanimous choice of the electors, on the first ballot scrutiny. Peter of Tarentaise was the first Dominican to become pope. He chose the pontifical name of Innocent. His decision was to be crowned in Rome, which had not seen a pope since the departure of Gregory X in the third week of June, 1272. By 7 February the papal curia had reached Viterbo. King Charles of Naples rode up to Viterbo to meet the new pope and escort him to Rome. On the 22nd of February 1276, the feast of S. Peter's Chair, he was crowned at the Vatican Basilica by Cardinal Giovanni Gaetano Orsini. Actions and policies. On 2 March 1276, Pope Innocent granted to King Charles I of Sicily the privilege of retaining the senatorship of Rome, the government of the city, and the rectorship of Tuscia. In a letter of 4 March, the Pope testifies that King Charles had sworn fealty for the Kingdom of Naples and of Sicily. On 9 March, he wrote to Rudolph, King of the Romans, begging him not to come to Italy, and if he had already started his journey, to break it off, until an agreement between him and the papacy could be finalized. This meant that Rudolph's coronation, which had been agreed to by Gregory X, would not immediately take place. On the 17th, he wrote to the King of the Romans again, advising him to meet with the papal nuncios, and that, in their negotiations, he should by no means introduce the topic of the Exarchate of Ravenna, the Pentapolis, and the Romandiola. This looked like extortion. The French Innocent's favoritism toward King Charles, the brother of Louis IX and uncle of Philip III, and his harshness toward Rudolph was beginning to change the balance of power in Italy again, and was pointing in the direction of war. Pope Gregory's efforts to bring about peace had been ruined. On the 26th he ordered the bishops of Parma and Comacchio to see to it that Boniface de Lavagna be installed as Archbishop of Ravenna, as Pope Gregory X had decided. Innocent was able to arrange a peace treaty between Genoa and King Charles I, which was signed on 18 June 1276. On 18 May 1276, Pope Innocent V notified King Philip III of France that he had appointed his friend Fr. Guy de Sully, Op., the Dominican Provincial of Paris, a post that Innocent himself had held until 1272, when he was appointed Archbishop of Lyon, to the See of Bourges. A noteworthy feature of his brief pontificate was the practical form assumed by his desire for reunion with the Eastern Church. He wrote to Michael Palaeologus, informing him of the death of Gregory X, and apologizing for the fact that the emperor representatives, George, the Archdeacon of Constantinople, and Theodore, the dispensator of the imperial curia, had not yet been released to return to Constantinople. He was proceeding to send legates to Michael VIII Palaeologus, the Byzantine emperor, in connection with the recent decisions of the Second Council of Lyons, hoping to broker a peace between Constantinople and King Charles I of Sicily. King Charles, however, was interested in conquest, not in concord. Innocent was interested in sending people to negotiate the reunion. He appointed Fr. Bartolomeo, o Min, of Bologna, a doctor of sacred scripture, to travel to the east, but he ordered him to come to Rome first, so that a suitable suite could be chosen for him. Death intervened. Pope Innocent V died at Rome on the 22nd of June 1276, after a reign of 5 months and 1 or 2 days. He was buried in the Lateran Basilica, in a magnificent tomb built by King Charles. Unfortunately, the tomb was destroyed by the two 14th-century fires at the basilica, in 1307 and 1361. Innocent V had created no new cardinals at all, and therefore the cast of characters at the conclave of July, 1276, was the same as in January. King Charles, however, was in Rome the entire time, and was in the position as Senator of Rome, to be the governor of the conclave. His wishes could not be ignored. Writings. Pope Innocent V was the author of several works of philosophy, theology, and canon law, including commentaries on the Pauline epistles, and on the sentences of Peter Lombard. He is sometimes referred to as Famosissimus Doctor. Beatification. Pope Leo XIII beatified Peter of Tarentaise, Innocent V, on 9 March 1898, on account of his reputation for holiness and saintliness. See also: List of popes. External links. Herbermann, Charles, ed. 1913. Pope B.L. Innocent V. Catholic Encyclopedia. New York, Robert Appleton Company. Maxwell Stewart, P.G. Chronicle of the Popes, The Reign-by-Reign Record of the Papacy from St. Peter to the Present, Thames and Hudson, 2002, p. 118. ISBN 0-500-01798-0. Pope Innocent V at Find a Grave. Paolo Vian, Innocenzo v. Beato, Enciclopedia dei Papi 2000, in Italian. Sede Vacanti and Conclave, January 1276. Dr. J. P. Adams. References. Bibliography. Charles-François Tarinaz, La patrie et la famille de Pierre de Tarentaise, Pape sous le nom d'Innocent V, par Mgr Tarinaz, Dissertation historique, Lou à la for e réunion du Congrès des sociétés savantes savoisiennes, Tenua Motiers, les 8 et 9 août 1881, Nancy, Librairie Notre-Dame 1882, in French. The author was Bishop of Nancy, and author of the Catéchisme du diocèse de Tarentaise J. Mothan, Vie du Binero Innocent V, Rome 1896. Augustin Dembski, Papst Nikolaus III, Eine Monographie, Munster 1903, 34–37. Richard Sternfeld, Der Cardinal Johann Gaetan Orsini, Papst Nikolaus III, 1244–1277, Berlin, E. Ebering 1905. F. Gregorovius, History of Rome in the Middle Ages, Volume 5–2, 2nd edition, revised London, George Bell, 1906. H. D. Sedgwick, Italy in the 13th Century Volume 2, Boston, New York 1912. P. Glorieux, Répertoire des maîtres en théologie de Paris aux siècle I, Paris 1933, pp. 107–112. Beatus Innocentius pp. V. Petrus de Tarantasia op. Studia et Documenta, Rome 1943. Marie Hyacinthe Laurent, Ciro Ginelli and Louis Bertrand Guillen, Le Binero Innocent V, Pierre de Tarentaise et son temps, Studi e Testi, 29, Città del Vaticano, Biblioteca Apostolica Vaticana 1947. Th. Capelli, Scriptores Ordinis Praedicatorum Medi Aevi 3, Rome 1980, pp. 261–264. Ghislaine Brunel, Innocent V, in Philippe Levelin, The Papacy, an Encyclopedia Volume 2, Gaius Proxies NY, Routledge 2002, pp. 793–794.